Thanks for joining us on Worldwide Slot Car Chat on Zoom, number 148. I'm your host, Greg Gow. The gang's all here. We got John and Don and Luff and Tony and Mike and Henry and Gio and John and Dewan and Chris and Wayne and other people. Let's talk slot cars. Does anybody have any show and tell they'd like to show and tell? I have something that I will show, but most people have probably already seen it because I posted it far and wide. But I'll show it on the video too. Tony's got his hand up. Go ahead, Mr. Petrucci.
The FBI for saying a laboratory leak.
Oh, you got the CG SlotCars machine.
Yes, it arrived last week. It was supposed to come Wednesday, but I missed it Wednesday and it arrived Thursday. So,
have you had a chance to play with it yet?
No, not yet. No, I thought before I played with it, I'll show you in case I damage it. I only got one.
What do you think about the build quality and the fit and finish and all?
It is quite nice.
Yeah.
Yes, it's solid.
Yeah, it looks a good machine.
Looks a good machine. But there's only one. You only get one plate.
Yeah.
Would you pick that up for about $5?
I'm sure they'll sell more plates for.
Well, I'm hoping to get more parts and rather get the bit that
The reciprocator.
reciprocator. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I expect
Number
that.
written on the bottom.
Sorry.
Is there a number written on the bottom?
Oh yeah, what number is yours? On the bottom of the base. Should have a number.
52.
52. There you go. Now we know his number. We got your number, Tony.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm surprised how quick it came.
Yeah,
I
overseas.
I ordered it on the Friday, and the Wednesday or the Thursday it arrived.
That's pretty good shipping.
So 5 days. Come Wednesday, it arrived in England on Tuesday night and Wednesday morning.
You still have the box? What country did it come from?
Sorry?
What country did it come from? Did it come from the US or Canada? What about city?
That's just I haven't got the box there.
Oh, you don't have the shipping
I got
box.
the delivery box. That went last week.
Sure, that makes sense. Anybody have any questions for Tony on the CG SlotCars machine? Alrighty, hearing none. Do you have anything else you want to show or talk about, Tony?
No. I've ordered some cars, but they haven't arrived.
Alrighty, I've done that too. I'll show those off next week probably. All right, thanks for sharing, Tony.
Well done.
Gio, you are next. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I also ordered some cars that have not arrived. Actually, Pendle has not even taken my money. It's still basically pending. Anyway, so I'm not sure whether I showed this stuff. Have you guys seen this one?
Oh, the Scalextric. Is that your custom? One of your customs?
Yeah, because I think I posted on Slot Forum, but I don't remember if I've shown over here.
You mentioned that you were going to do it, but you didn't show us pictures.
Yeah, so basically I didn't show the finished product, basically, right? So this is the one. So I think I mentioned that I was like appending 2 of them or appending 2 of them. So this is one of the 2. These clearly are the other one, and this is the other one that I kind of repainted. So I mean, nothing really kind of groundbreaking, except that I just used some decals from I think it's called All Slot cars. So they have Formula 1, I think they were making. So Pendle had some decals on offer from these guys, and the decals are actually pretty nice, of course, for Formula 1 car. So I savaged them and put like around as basically to fill as many spots as I could on the track, and there are many basically.
Yeah, I mean,
and yeah, so kind of try to replicate some of the real liveries type of things that you see on the real track on the fly ones. And yeah, so pretty happy with the final product. And I also try to match some of the colors that we have with the drivers, but I don't know whether. So, but I mean, I was missing a red and blue truck, and that's what I come up with.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I still not to raise them all together. I
Are
mean,
you
but
doing anything
racing.
particular? Are you doing anything particular as far as setup or tuning?
Good question. So, sorry, I'm going like crazy around. So, I'm using. I mean, the rear it's stock. I mean, and the tires are all stock. These are the Scalextric one. The rear one are pretty good in terms of grip if you oil them. The front, basically, I did that kind of splitting of the axle, where basically I split the axle and then I put it a brass tube and some collars. So in this case, basically, in this way, the front axle becomes like independent.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys ever seen this.
I think
Didn't I
you
show
showed that on
this?
one of your other cars.
Yeah. I think I don't. Okay, so I think that I kind of shown for this one. So the motor is basically I removed the Scalextric one and I'm using the I think it's MRC 16K motor, so it's not a crazy motor. And the pinion is the 9 teeth that come from RevoSlot in the mini Group 2 kind of cars. It's very good actually as inline pinion. The trucks are really quiet when they run. The other thing that I did is basically I'm using the DRP or DPR, the hatch, and of course so basically this is the stock one that comes with the trucks. So there is no chip on top of it. There is just a plug for making the truck going analog. And so what I do is I kind of remove that plug and then use it as a flat surface for mounting in this case, I'm using the C chip, not my favorite one, but yeah, I have a bunch, so I'm trying to reuse them. And you can see also where I put the old sensor here in the front, so there is this kind of a ribbon here for the whole sensor that goes over the front axle. I'm gonna find any better place that is as far away as me, kind of place it wide.
Because you tube the front axle, it's not rubbing on the ribbon, so it doesn't matter if it touches the axle, right?
Well, I mean, so yeah, the tube is there is not that much play, right? So
it does rotate.
Basically, there is a bit of a friction that you can feel if you're gonna touch it. I mean, you can feel when you let the wheel go. I mean, the wheel will rotate, of course.
Yeah.
But it will be a bit kind of slower than or stop early on than others. And then basically the usual thing like gluing a bit of rear bushing, gluing the motor in.
Yeah.
And so one thing that I mean, this is kind of mainly for people that raise kind of SSDs or maybe for Mike. So this is the kind of the ferrite main from the front, right from the pickup. And if you look at the way,
oh, they put the wires too low.
so basically this is completely useless.
Yeah,
it's not doing its job. And I just want to kind of make sure that it was like that. So I removed the body thing, and yes, I mean someone didn't get the right specs how to mount them. Actually, what they did is just they remove a bit the wire cover and they just go and then basically kind of solder them in. I said, yeah, that's super easy like that, right?
I mean, the capacitor is still doing its job, but the ferrite bead is doing nothing.
Yeah, that's I think it's I mean, again, especially I don't know with the new chip how really, I mean, the new what's called H
I'm
now.
thinking that's just a manufacturing error. Like the factory decided that this would speed up things, but didn't clear it with Scalextric, or Scalextric didn't.
Yeah.
Whoever they cleared it with didn't realize that it matters. Because I
Yeah,
can
so
see how
basically, I
that would
think
speed up production. Is just pulling the sheath apart and soldering it right there would be much quicker than the other way.
yeah. So
Yeah.
and basically
Half the time.
I had like two like this, and I don't remember which one is newer or older or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's kind of yeah. So basically, keep an eye open for. I mean, if you are raising SSD, keep an eye open if you see something not going right with your car. Might be that they did the same trick.
Yep.
Especially on the front. Okay.
Do you find the
That's
oxygen
all.
work in SSD mode unless that one's in the front there then,
I think
Gio?
he's doing oxygen, right?
I'm doing oxygen, yes. And personally, I'm not using a ferrite man even on the motor, but because these were there, I didn't want to redo the old bloody wiring loom, so I reused what was there. But then I noticed that I said, oh, let's see what happens, and then I fix it because I mean, otherwise, I mean, if it's there, let's use it, right? I mean, who knows if in the future I'm gonna kind of use again an SSD, so I don't need to remember which one is which. So just kind of fix it, put it back, and that's it.
Yeah.
You see, I've never put one between the braid and the chip for oxygen use.
You
But
don't
I have
need.
put
You
one
don't
there
need.
for SSD use.
Yeah. Don't really.
Yeah, but again, depends. It depends because basically when we were doing SSD and we were using the SP15, I didn't put any on the front. I never had any problem.
Yep.
Okay, it's useful to know.
Yeah, the ones most susceptible were the early Scalextric DPR chips. So it's, I mean, it's basically, just like the ferrite man on the motor, in some cases, if your motor doesn't generate very much EMI, if you happen to get a clean running motor, you can run digital without the ferrite man on the motor. And so there are people out there who are adamant that it's not necessary. And technically, they're right. It's not absolutely necessary if their motor is not generating very much EMI. But as soon as their car starts wigging out on them, they're like, what's wrong with my car? And I'm like, is there a ferrite man on the motor? And they're like, don't need one. I'm like, yes, you do, because your car's wigging out. So put a ferrite man on the motor and then come back to me and tell me it's not necessary. Otherwise, why would every single digital slot car company include EMI filtering on the motor? But yeah, you can get by. If you're lucky to have a clean motor, you don't need one. If you're lucky to have a track that doesn't, for whatever reason, your braid formation and whatever, you're not getting spikes from the braids on the track, you don't need one there either. And some chips are not susceptible to that,
So in oxygen, so with I think it was B1 or B2 chip that I repaired a while ago because I kind of burned the MOSFET and also the ferrite bit that is on chip on board.
Yeah.
So I managed, through, I think, Dr. C. Clive, so I managed to get the part number for the MOSFET or MOSFET. Yeah, I kind of always MOSFET. So I got that. I managed to kind of resolder them back, so removing. So I did a repair, a legit one. So the chip is going. And when I changed the ferrite bit on, actually it's a ferrite main actually on the chip, and I didn't do a proper job there. The chip was not behaving properly. So you had like this stop and go. So when I kind of went back and put it back properly, then the chip was working 100%.
Yeah.
So there is, I think, on the oxygen chip, there is a lot of filtering happening on board already.
Yeah.
Kind of at least from the motor side, for what I could see. I mean, and it's really effective. So I was using these. I think I was on a GT3 car that. So using one of these Baby King or whatever, Baby Raptor motor, and without the proper ferrite bit mounted properly on the chip, the stuff was not going well. And I think I had still the ferrite main on the motor when that was happening.
Well, I mean,
Anyway,
I won't name names, but there is one digital slot car company that shows the chip installation, including 4 capacitors
I mean,
connected to the motor
it's still a
as their
company.
recommended installation.
Yeah.
But, you
I
know,
remember, yeah.
it's just one of those things, you know, if your digital car is acting funny, make sure your ferrite man on the motor is properly installed. And if it's still acting funny, then there's some other issue, but that's like 99 times out of 100. Without a ferrite
Yeah.
man, your car's acting funny. That's why, is motor noise. Anywho, I think we beat that one down. I have a show and tell, and I don't see any other hands. If you have a show and tell, raise your hand. I'm going to do my show and tell. Let me make sure my share is ready to show and tell. Share screen, that one. Okay, so if you're on forum and Facebook, you've probably seen this already, so you know what it is. This is my first print attempt for this index knob for the tire raiser, and as you can see, it's not very good, and that's because, well, this particular print is designed so that the white is on top of the black, and the white was deciding to be really stringy. But aside from the stringy, when I was trying to clean off the stringy, I was picking off the little ticks. They were just coming right off the black. And I could fix that with changing, you know, settings and filament and stuff like that. But I decided to do the other method, which was flip it over and print it so that it's all in one layer, and then have it all squished onto the build plate. But as you can see, the design was such that the black didn't provide enough room for the white to be nice looking. And this was the second attempt, printing the white first, and it did better, but I was still not happy with the appearance. So, come on, zoom out. Come on, there we go. So this is a third attempt. I changed the model a little bit. I made the numbers bigger. I made the little tick marks bigger, and I printed the white first, and it, as you can see, still not very good because of the stringiness. And then this was almost my final attempt, where I printed the black first with the larger numbers and larger tick marks. And this is okay, but I knew I could do better. So again, I changed how I'm printing it and flipped it over so that the numbers were up rather than on the plate, but not above the black. So they're being printed side by side, you know, within. So they don't pick off. You can't scrape them off. And it's a little stringy because the white filament I was using was a little stringy, but that cleans up super easy. Come on some sandpaper. Come on. Oh, now you give me trouble. There we go. Okay, so this is that same knob after a few strokes on some sandpaper and then cleaned off. And this is what I finally ended up with. And this is the indicator needle, as I call it, that goes onto the tire raiser. So you basically put the needle over the top bar. You got to take your knob off completely so you can put the needle, because it's held in place by the top bar and the hole for the knob. Then you put your knob back on, and then this printed knob just fits right over top of the original knob. Friction fit, you just press it on and it stays on real well. Or you can glue it if you really want to. But that's basically it. And so on my printables page for this, I explain how why I did this and how I use it. And I'll put the link in the description for anybody who's interested. But basically, it's a non-caliper way to make sure that both of my wheels are the same size. Because the tire raiser, and pretty much all these whole axle machines, pretty much all of them, one wheel will hit just a tiny little bit before the other one. So if you want them to both be the same diameter, whatever that diameter is, you pretty much have to do one wheel and then flip the axle over and then do the other wheel and hope that they're the same. So this basically helps me make sure that they're going to be the same. So basically, as I'm turning the knob and working the tire down to true, when I get it true, I note, which number and tick mark the needle is on. And the thread pitch on this bolt is super fine. So, one full rotation is like a millimeter, I think. Probably less than a millimeter, like half a millimeter. So one tick is just a angel's breath. It's nothing. So basically, I go by the number and tick mark, and then I do the other side down to the same number and tick mark. If they're not both completely true, I finish true in the second tire, and then down to a new number and tick mark, and then I flip the axle over and do the first tire down to the new number and tick mark. I have no idea what the diameter would be. This is not a diameter measurement tool. This is just a consistency tool. So if you want to get a specific diameter, then you want to do your caliper measuring like normal, and then remember your number and tick mark and go down to that.
Or do some maths.
Would that,
No maths needed.
No. I mean, if you really want to know the diameter, you can do some
Oh,
maths,
you could,
right?
you're
And-
right. You're
yeah.
right. You could actually figure out exactly how much,
Yeah.
you know, one tick mark moves it down.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a pretty simple contraption. One of the on Slot Forum, one of the guys posted, I do the same thing by having a lock nut on the threads of the bolt, right? So he basically drews it down and then moves a nylock nut down to the plate so that, you know, when you're turning the knob, the nut doesn't move. So when you hit the nut, then it stops. And I'm like, well, that's a good idea. But I didn't have a nylock of the appropriate size, and I didn't feel like going out and buying one. So I did my method, and it works. It's basically, a long time ago, I showed you guys how I just put some marks on the knob of the tire raiser, but those just wear right off with, you know, touching it. So this doesn't wear off.
Are you using your reciprocator quite a bit with that then?
When I use my tire raiser, yeah, every time.
And do you just leave it running until there's nothing happening?
I mean, it depends on what kind of tire you're doing. Like if I'm doing urethanes, yeah, pretty much. And then I'll crank it down a little bit more. But if I'm doing like NSRs or G25s or something that needs care and attention, then I'll be sitting there the whole time doing what I need to do to keep the tire from melting. But at least I'm not going like this with the plate back and forth the whole time.
You see, I've been increasingly finding that when I do something similar to achieve the same diameter, it all depends on how long I leave the tire there, sitting on the sandpaper, as to what tire diameter I actually end up with. Because when I take them off and I put them on the bench, they always shrink again.
Maybe you're running your tires too fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't run it any slower than I am doing. I'm using it as slow as I can, and my transformer only outputs 4 volts. So, you know, I don't disagree. I am getting a bit of temperature up. I don't want it, but it always seems to get warm with the G25s, and I have to be very careful not to measure the wheel when I've taken it straight off. Otherwise, I'll get an oversize. But to measure it when it's cooled.
Yeah.
So I'm constantly trimming the second tire and then taking it off and letting it cool before I measure it.
What kind of machine do you have?
Oh, the RSM.
Okay. Yeah, I don't remember what their RPM motor is, but I'm sure it's not unreasonable. So getting a power supply that lets you go at a lower voltage with good amperage.
Well, I've been trying to find that 7,000 RPM at 12 volt motor that's on the tire truer that Mr. Petrucci just showed us, because I've seen it. It's on the label. They've got it. And I've been searching the AliExpress sites and similar for a 7,000 RPM motor of that size, and I literally cannot find one.
7,000 is pretty low for a DC motor. 7,000 at how many volts? Do you remember?
It's on the label. It's 7,000 at 12 volts.
Yeah, that's
I
pretty
think-
low. That's probably a gear motor.
Slot Car Corner got the motor for the
It
tire raiser.
probably has a gear reduction. So if you're just looking for a straight DC motor, you need to be looking for a gear motor, a motor with a gear
Well,
reduction.
if it's a 540 size motor, if you look at the one that Tony's got, it's not got a gearbox on the front. Has that tire truer got a twin belt drive, Tony, or is it just a single belt?
Oh no, yeah, CG SlotCars has a built-in.
It's a single belt, I think.
It's a single belt from the motor to the axle with the tires are on. Yes.
I haven't set it up, so I don't know. Hold on, let's get it out.
Oh, maybe the gear reduction is a separate item that they're planning to do later. I remember it being mentioned on one of their.
That's just a single belt to the motor
Okay.
to connect to the wheel.
So now it all depends on the sizes of the pulleys, but you can't put a pulley on the axle for the slot car that's much bigger than a tire, otherwise it starts to hit your sandpaper.
Yeah.
So the OD of the pulley has to be in the region of, I'm going to say about 16 millimeters.
Yeah.
And then of course you want the smallest possible pulley on your motor, and you can't go too small, otherwise the belt will begin to slip.
Why don't you just get a voltage regulator, Wayne, and just, you don't need, just, you know, turn the voltage down on either a half decent power, or either a different power supply, or just a voltage, inline voltage regulator.
Yeah.
I haven't considered it. Well, my power supply is already running at 4 volts. I'm already operating at far less than the motor's capable of running. But I would like a 7,000 RPM 540 size motor, like I think is on that tire truer.
I mean, Ed Bianchi with his homemade machine went and got a, what was it, 100 RPM, or it was really slow. He got a gear motor specifically because he wanted to go slow with high pressure so that he could do a high pressure grind without overheating the tire, because it was only going like that rather than, you know, fast.
Yeah, yeah.
And he could just let it go for hours because it never overheated because it was going so slow.
Wayne,
I would certainly like my truer to run slower, and it's just like yours. I mean, I don't know what voltage you run yours at. Do you run it at 2.5? Did you say, Greg?
I mean, it depends on what tires I'm doing. So yeah, as low as 2.5. I don't know what the RPM is, but the earliest tire raiser that I got from John was, the motor was way too fast. It was like a motor from a hand drill kind of thing, and then it would cause the tires to balloon, and then he changed which motor he was doing for a much lower RPM motor, but I don't know what the RPM is of that motor.
Well, if you remember, if you remember, I replaced the motor. Well, actually, first of all, I repaired the motor on my RSM because it was starting to release smoke. I tore it down, maintained it, serviced it, and did all I could. And it didn't work in the long run. It worked for a while. I ended up buying a different motor for it. I bought a 5-pole 540 size motor, and it does run really, really smooth. It's just that I think it's capable of 27,000 RPM at 12 volts, and running it at 4, I don't really know. I haven't measured what it's actually doing, but I'd like it to run even slower. And the only two ways are to either put some resistance in line to get the voltage even lower than 4, or change my transformer for something that can go even lower.
Right.
And the amperage, because for that kind of thing, when you're turning the volts down and start applying pressure, it's not, you need to give it more amps to make it.
That's correct. Yeah, you need quite juicy power supply capability. Yeah.
Do you have any of your old brushed 540 size motors left over from your RC days, Wayne?
No, and to be honest with you, the lowest performance one of all of those would be the one that's on the tire truer. It would be a sealed can 540 like the one they used. I mean, they used the one they used for a reason. All of the stuff that I would have had in my possession at the end of my RC career would have been far, far higher revving, far higher torque than the tire truer requires.
Well, torque is never a bad thing when you're truing tires at low voltage. Our local hub, we've got a local RC shop, and I just go down there, and the old brushed 540 motors, nobody uses them anymore, so you can get them for absolutely nothing, and they're much better than the sealed motors to stick in those things.
Okay.
That plus a new power supply.
Well, yeah, that's.
Well, you see, I've got a open end bell with external brushes type of motor, the kind that we were using in racing, on my little commutator truer, the little lathe that I've used. I've worked crown gears and all sorts of things on that because I can spin a 332 axle that way. I can't even true tires with a diamond bit, but I don't like that. I prefer the sanding. I prefer to do it with the proper tire truer, and you certainly can't do that on a whole axle. But any aluminium wheel, I can modify the wheel with it. I can do all sorts of things with it. And that has got a 27 turn armature in it, much like what I suspect, well, what we believe to be in the seal can motor. So it should perform pretty much identically, but the size of the pulley I can put on there is completely different to the one I can only put about 16 millimeters, 17 millimeters on the tire trewer. On the lathe, I can put a huge pulley, and therefore the reduction is reducing the RPM of the workpiece.
Wayne, just get a power supply. You can turn it down to one. You can make it go as slow, like you can make a 100,000 RPM motor tick over as slow as you want.
Yeah,
the
that's
problem
right.
with that is that you reduce the torque straight away. As soon as you are using a high RPM motor at low voltage,
Right.
you're reducing the torque that you have. And so it's going to stall as soon as you feed the tire into it. Now, one of the first things to think about is using a 550 instead of a 540 size motor. That's one thing, because inherently the bigger motor has more torque, and they're designed to operate at lower RPM.
That's
I
right.
mean, a hoodie and thing like that doesn't have a 540; it has a 550. That's one of the things to think about. The other thing is when you have a power supply and you're truing tires, it's very useful to have an ammeter on the power supply so that you can see how much current is being drawn by the power supply. Because when you're trying to cut tires and you're trying to cut two tires one after the other and not at the same time, the ideal is to always cut the rubber at the same amperage draw as you did the first tire on the second tire. Then you know that you have a much better chance of keeping the temperatures the same, because the size of the cut is the same.
Yeah, that's right. I've bought an ammeter for that. I haven't installed it on my tire trewer yet. It's a little bit big to fit onto my tire trewer, to be quite honest. And the power supply I've got is like a wall wart with a knob on it. It's a tiny little thing.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really fit very well there either. But I have bought
you get what you pay for.
Get a real power
Wayne.
supply, Wayne.
Yeah, exactly, man. I mean, half an hour for just, I mean, Pendle has some good ones that are very cheap, man.
Yeah.
Never mind.
And
40 pounds, I think you can get more than enough for what you need.
to follow up on Dennis's point, it's also when you start up your motor, and if you have an amp meter on it and it's drawing 2 amps, whatever it's drawing, I try never to make a cut that increases the amp draw by 1 amp over what it's resting at. And that way, now you'll be surprised how little pressure, when you actually put a tire on, how little pressure 1 amp draw increases. But the secret to the tires is to take little tiny bits off and to not overheat the tire. And back to Greg's point with, urethane tires, you can just let them spin around all day long, and that's a lie, but I mean they're pretty foolproof. With rubber tires, you cannot just set attention and walk away and let them reciprocate around, or you'll come back with an unholy mess on your hands.
Yep.
Yeah, that's my finding, which is why I'm not convinced that the reciprocator is the right thing for me to have, because the temptation is to, well, it always just looks so easy. And certain rubber tires, it will work on, but the ones I use, they just want to ball up and all that.
Yeah, not to discredit any of the tire chewers out there, but if you're a dyed-in-the-wool rubber tire car racer, any truer that has a plate that just sits there is far inferior to a Huddy style, which counter rotates the tire against the drum. You get much cleaner, much nicer cuts on that.
Yeah, my plan, if eventually, which I have lots of plans eventually that I'm happy to somebody else to do, but Dennis designed a fantastic counter-rotating whole axle machine, and I'm planning on taking inspiration from that machine and doing a 3D printable one. But I'd be happy if somebody else did it first, so I don't have to do it. But that design,
so you can just perfect it, right?
No, way. I mean, it was a great design, but it'll take some prototyping to get a stiff enough printed machine to adequately do it. And I would not put it up against a Huddy or any precision made milled machine any day, but it'll
I
do
wouldn't
a
even
pinch.
put my one up against the Huddy, that's for sure.
Yeah,
And
part
mine
of
mine was built like a freaking battleship.
yeah, I remember it was a great design, but conceptually it's a great design.
Yeah,
So,
it has a couple of little practical limitations. It's really difficult. It's really difficult to get the drive belt onto that pulley that you put around the axle.
Yeah.
Because there's just not enough space in there. But anyway, it works. It works pretty well for what I wanted.
We're actually there's a new tire machine being designed. I'm not sure if Dennis has spoken to Ernie lately, but we're building up a lot of tires on wheels for an upcoming race at Electric Dreams, and we'll probably have to do 150 sets of tires and wheels. So there's a tire trailer being made right now that will have a diamond drum, and it's counter rotating, and it will take 4 tires and wheels at a time. So none of us are really looking forward to doing 2 tires at a time at 150 sets of rubber tires. So
I mean, even 4 tires at a time will take forever.
Sorry?
Even 4 tires at a time will take a good amount of time.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, you can only do what you can do. But if anybody's looking for a really good tire truer right now, counter rotating, the PN V3 tire truer is quite nice. Probably, the best reasonably priced one out there on the market right now. And if you're racing on plastic track, all the tire raisers and stuff like that, if you take your time and check your work and do all the rest of the stuff, they're perfectly fun.
Yeah.
At the highest levels of rubber car racing, you probably want to do something else.
Yeah. And to Wayne's point, I try to make it clear with the reciprocator sales that it's not a set and forget. You still have to be there the whole time, even with urethanes.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just a way to free your hands to do things like applying, coolant to your tire, or brushing away schmutz, or whatever the case may be. But yeah, I see what Wayne was saying. The temptation is there to just set it and walk away. But even if it's just tickling the sanding plate, it's going to overheat and gum up and get ruined. So
schmutz, a technical term.
Yes, that's in the dictionary of engineering.
I thought it might be digital schmutz.
Yeah, it's a digital thing. Digital schmutz. All right, Frank, you've had your hand up. Do you have a show and tell, or did you want to pitch in on the tire truing thing?
Yeah, well, it is tire truer, but I need your help.
Okay.
Okay. Can you see where to go?
Paint it down a little bit.
Yep.
Okay.
There. Okay. You see I have a little bottle on there?
Oh, you're keeping it from racking with the bottle?
Yeah. So am I just not adjusted properly, or what?
I think I have an idea for that. And you have one of my earlier reciprocators, but I think this fix will work for that too. When I did the one for the RSM, because the plate moves so much, I had to do those adjustable clamps to keep the plate from racking. The tire raiser and other machines the plates don't move as much, but I think that's why it's racking, is because it can move just a teeny bit more than it should. So basically what I'll do, and you can be my test subject. I'll do a sliding plate, so on the front plate, you'll take that one,
guinea pig,
and it'll be a sliding one, and then I'll do the separate clamp for the other side, so that you can have the plate restricted from end to end by clamps on the front, like I did for the RSM. I think that'll probably do the trick. But
cool. Okay. Thank
you
you.
can tell me later.
All righty.
Can I ask you
how my little bottle of glue works?
Yeah.
While he's got his camera that way around, Frank, would you show me your desk lamp?
Oh.
That's neat. I like that.
I just found it on either, I think it was eBay, but it could have been Amazon.
And that's clamping on the edge, is it?
It sits down in a little hole.
Yep. Yep.
Not a clamp on. You gotta, whoops, I don't even know if you saw that or not. I did.
Yeah, we saw it.
Okay, it's just down in a little hole and you can lift it way up.
It's got nice tight hinges for that long light.
Yeah. And then you can
Does it have a magnifier?
No.
LED, yeah.
CFL looks like. Is that CFL or LEDs?
LEDs, I think. Pretty bright.
Yep. Oh yeah, I saw the dots. Yep.
I don't mean to interrupt, guys, but on Frank's desk there, he had a power supply, perfect power supply for a tour.
Yep.
So that'll work great. I started with a power supply that was a 5 amp power supply, and I thought it was a great power supply, but it would not pull my tire tour. So then I upgraded to a 10 amp, and it's been great after that. So 10 amp, you know, power supply is great. So that was one of the best investments I did in my tire touring now. So definitely a 10 amp is great.
Yep. Best money you can spend in the slot car hobby. Good controller, good power supply, tire truer, then car.
And a Dremel.
And a Dremel. There you go.
And a Dremel, yeah.
And
that one only cost me $20. It's a really old one, and a friend was using it for his HO track, and he sold his HO track, sold me that for $20.
Nice.
I think he wishes he wouldn't have done it.
Yeah, I mean, power supplies now are pretty cheap. I found power supplies pretty cheap on eBay. So I think the first 10 amp was a heavy brick. I mean, it was an old school, but the second one, it's lighter than a feather, and it's a 10 amp. So I went with that one.
Yeah. And you know, the ones like, I think Frank's is similar, but you know, you can hit up Amazon or eBay and $60 and you get a 0 to 30 volt, 0 to 10 amp, fully adjustable LED display for volts and amps. Perfect for all kinds of slot car things. All right, thanks for that input, Jerry. And Tony, you got your hand back up. Are you showing off your lamp?
Yeah. I'm showing the lamp to Wayne. If you can see it.
Oh yeah. How does it connect to your
on batteries or on the main?
Those are nice. It works off batteries.
Oh, so it's got batteries in the base and it just sits on.
No, you've got a USB lead and it's rechargeable batteries.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, it charges off a USB and mini USB port. They're very nice. And I seem to remember they have 2 brightnesses or 3 brightnesses as well.
Oh,
but you got
Looks
the
like
base.
it folds away neat, does it, Tony?
Sorry?
Yeah, it folds down completely flat.
Folds flat.
That's really good at trackside in the pits.
you got all the stuff now, Tony. Soon you'd be able to build some slot cars.
Someday. It's got a 3D printer too.
Yeah, got 2 3D printers. I
At
bought
least
this
you
on
print stuff.
QVC.
At least you print stuff, unlike Paul. I don't think he's here.
Or Dennis, for that matter.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you've printed things though in the past.
Oh yeah, like 1 or 2, and then didn't get anywhere. And then I loaned the printer to my son, and now I've got it back, and I'm still I don't know where I'm going to put it.
But he got it working and doing fun things.
He bought a whole bunch of fancy filament for it because he wanted to make some little hinges. So he bought a super flexible filament, but I don't know that he ever printed anything before he found that he didn't have space for it.
You take up space. All right, thanks for showing your lamp, Tony. Does anybody else have any show and tell before we move on?
I got a quick one.
Take it away.
Not too many people will actually be interested in this. So how's that for?
Unless it's not slot car related, you good?
Dennis will know what this is.
It is another lamp.
No, I'm building this.
Oh, a Rusket Carrera.
Yeah, I'm building this for a guy in England who will be racing in Bordeaux. So,
Oh, nice.
this came out in either 65 or early 66. And this is an aluminum pan chassis, one piece with a drop arm. And
the weird part is the drop arm is on top of the chassis.
Yeah, well, it's a drop arm that basically goes up more than down. When this came out in 60, the first one was a Porsche 906 body. They made 2 or 3 different bodies. This one's a McLaren body going on this. When this came out, you had to be a pretty good scratch builder to build a car to stay with these things. They worked very well. Oh, that was the RTR car, ready to run car of the time. This is 24 scale, obviously. Few things we've learned. I wish I had have, known then what I know now, but this one I've put a brass insert on the drop arm. There's a nut and bolt here that goes straight through from the bottom of the chassis so I can fix the guide ride height. And then I added a brass axle tube back here and a seriously modified motor by a guy by the name of John Havlicek. So this thing now, I mean, if I had this car back in 66, I would have been like on the Ed Sullivan Show. I would have been a hero, but I don't. They're really neat cars.
Did you straighten the front end of the drop arm to use a regular guide?
Yeah.
Because normally they had that little 15-degree kick up at the front for the guides that had the angled post.
Where it's been filed here, Dennis.
Uh-huh.
And then when I added the brass plate, I ran the brass plate all the way up to the top, so it's nice and flat now.
Horrible guide nut though, if you don't mind me saying.
Hey, I gotta do what we like. It's got to be somewhat period correct.
Oh yeah, for Bordeaux, yes.
For Bordeaux, I can't really do like. You see things and you go, geez, I really should do this, and then you go, no, you can't do that. So
yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Anyway, so that's why
nicely done, Chris. Very nice.
And it runs. I tell you, Dennis, it runs.
I can imagine.
Superb.
And is that gear the gear on the rear axle? Is that the one that's attached to the hub?
Yeah, that's the Rusket. It's 44 tooth molded into the hub.
Yeah.
Or not molded into the hub, but added onto the hub as well. So
yeah. Okay.
Were those axle tubes used back then too?
No, that's his own stuff. Originally, certainly they front and rear they had nylon bushings.
And
that was the downfall.
If you can use that, you should be able to add a really nice nut up front.
Well,
I'm trying, Dennis. I'm trying.
Thank you.
This is actually what they'll allow you to do stuff that you could have done in the day. So you could argue that you could have done this, but you can't add more modern parts.
Gotcha. Yeah. So that
did you cut
the
brass at the back?
Sorry?
So on the back, so the brass stuff that you put on the back on the rear axle. Did you cut enough?
Yeah, you cut an opening so that it could be closer to the motor.
There is an opening there. How the heck did you do that?
I just cut with a Dremel.
Very carefully. Very, very carefully.
I've got lots of pictures of lots of cars. The tubing just interfered with the motor can here. So this tube was cut to fit in the aluminum uprights, and then the bushings were glued through the outside of the uprights into the tube, and then you just take a Dremel tool and just make 2 cuts and run your Dremel along the edges and cut down the edge.
You went with the wheel. So you went with the wheel along the tube to cut the opening?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like open surgery artery or something like that. Okay. Jesus.
Yeah. Just one cut with the Dremel disc right in there. Boom.
Yeah.
One cut down here. Boom. Pull. And this is a longer piece of tubing, so I could, like, the tubing was probably this long, so I could hold on to one end, and I just made my cuts and then trimmed the edges and fit it in. It took like 5 minutes.
Yeah. So the first thing you did to the tube was cut that slot out.
Yeah.
Did all the other stuff.
Yeah.
Chris, did you replace those horrible original rusket axles that they came with?
Oh, the green
Well, clearly.
The green covered ones, yes.
the green coated ones. Yeah, the aluminum ones. Yeah.
Yeah. They were not. Yeah, they had a tendency to bend up pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm aware of that. We ran one in a 12-hour race back in August '66, and that was the only problem we had with a fantastic car during the whole 12 hours. Was one of the front axle got bent, but absolutely great car.
These Carrera chassis are lovely. They run very well, even absolutely stock form. Put a set of Ortmans on it, front and rear. Ortman urethanes, true them up, and on a home track they run fantastic.
Yeah,
I have a couple of them. They're really, really nice.
These are actually
Carrera.
Sorry.
So Chris called this Carrera. What does it mean with the Carrera? I mean, it's the brand Carrera, or it's
no. That's the name of the car, Rusket.
Yeah.
And this was just. The design of the chassis was called a Carrera.
So it was a Rusket Carrera chassis as opposed to a Rusket Spider chassis, which was a different design, or a Rusket Black Widow chassis, which was another design.
Yeah.
Well, it confuses some of us because Carrera we know is a toy manufacturer.
Or Carrera we know as a type of Porsche.
Right.
Yeah.
That too.
Or sunglasses. This was and this has got these are the original formulation Ortmans on there, which are there's no other urethane.
Fantastic! Yeah, the greatest ones.
Old race in Mexico.
Sorry.
Or an old race in Mexico.
Oh, Carrera. Yeah.
Oh, the Carrera. Yeah, Carrera Panamericana.
Okay,
and what tires are you using in the front, Chris?
Sorry?
What tires on the front?
I had quite a few original Rusket front rubber tires, and I just used those on the front and trued them down.
And did you do any work on the body? Did you do any work on the body of the car?
Well, the body's finished. I was just looking. It's a McLaren M1B, which was a factory car that Rusket did. It wasn't the most famous. The most famous was the Porsche 906. And unfortunately, I just looked and I can't find a close a picture of it right now. But the body's all done and it's all ready to go.
So you have to use a body that was actually available on that car at the time.
You don't have to, but you can't use like a newer, 5 thou thick Lexan thing. It's got to be the butyrate, something period correct of somewhat. So no big high wings and no swoopy weird looking cars and stuff like that.
I found a photo. I'll just share the screen. There it is. There you go. That blue one in the middle.
There you go.
And that's mainly because the rules for this Bordeaux race are that everything has
it's a vintage race.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everything's got to be.
Cars.
Yeah, and everything's got to be six. The chassis came in 3 versions. One that I've seen one of ever in my life. This was the unanodized plain aluminum one. This was the early one. Then the next one was there it is, the black anodized one with the lovely green axles and the Rusket 22 as stock. And then Rusket did do they did a brass one, and I've only ever seen one.
I've never seen one. No.
It's Philippe showed a picture. It's in the LA Museum, Dennis.
Oh, okay.
And if I had a brass one of those and could put some rear mounts on it and get a proper way to put the motor in instead of that, it would have been a spectacular car.
Oh,
I seem to remember they had one version where the drive was not via gears, but was via a rubber pinion direct onto the rear wheel, and then at the front of the motor there was a little bracket with a spring that pushed the motor back towards the tire to ensure that it was. And Gio's laughing himself to death there thinking about that.
It's like those old generators for your headlight on a bicycle.
Same sort of thing. Yep.
Great cars.
Dewan,
well, I mean that rubber pinion on the rubber tire.
How did it stay on the motor? Wouldn't it?
No, it was like a brass pinion and a proper pinion underneath that had a rubber cover over the top of it. Like they put a piece of tubing over it or something like that, as I recall. And then this little bracket in front of the motor with a big coil spring in it that pushed the whole motor assembly back towards the rear axle so that it engaged properly. I mean, if they'd really done it well, they would have had a long shaft and two of them, one on each wheel. Which would have been even better, but they didn't. But yeah, it's almost as bad an idea as that JK car that they brought out a couple of years back, where they used 2mm wheels and just put them straight on the ends of the motor and had no gearing whatsoever, which is also a super crazy idea.
It's funny to think that you could flat spot the wheel from the pinion.
Yeah, you probably could if it's spun
too long. All right, Dewan, did you have a question, or do you want to have another topic?
Well, I was gonna go back a little bit on the tire truer. I don't know if you guys saw the little video that Johnny Hobby had put out about his little $40 or less tire truer for career cars.
Oh, it's like one of those that you just sandpaper on a thing?
No. He actually made a full tire truer, very similar to the tire raiser.
Oh, do you have a link?
Using 3D printed parts and off-the-shelf motors and some other things. Yeah. So anyway, I just thought I'd mention that. The other thing I was going to do was I was going to show this last week, but I don't know if you guys can see.
Ouch.
This is the remnants of.
Did your puppy enjoy that?
A car that I had for sale that my dog got a hold of.
Ow.
That's a beautiful
I don't know if there's any additional
doggone
desire for anyone that wants anything of this nature. It's a fly. It was a beautiful fly car. It was right out of the case, and I left it sitting out. And I guess my dog thought it was a
Hey,
cheetah.
it's one thing that your dog eats your homework, but it shouldn't be eating your slot cars.
Okay. And the last thing I was going to do, I think I might wait until next week. I was actually going to try to demonstrate the race coordinator program that not program, but the customizations that I did to race coordinator to allow it to create drivers on the fly. I was trying to set up a second camera, and I'm trying to keep the echoes out, and I'm kind of working on that. But I don't know if we could probably do that next week. I think I'll have it better perfected, because I don't want to end up with all these weird echoes having two computers near each other and all that stuff. So that'll be it.
Not a problem. My memory is going, but I looked up the Johnny Hobby video because it rung a bell, and I even commented on the video. But I'll share it real quick so you guys can see what it looks like. It's very similar to the RSM machine. Oh no, the CG SlotCars machine. With, well, kind of both of them to a certain extent. But yeah, he's got two belts. That's probably for reduction purposes, because it's basically just going to another gear. So that's probably just speed reduction. And then hinge way in the back, and then his up and down here, and then the plate. And he put a link in. Yeah, you can download them from his website. Print your own.
You even
and his real
commented
claim
on
to
that
fame
video.
is that he's
commented,
saying that it should cost no more than $40, including the off-the-shelf motor. if you have the motor and something equivalent to available, then it just drives the cost down even more. So $40, you can't beat that.
Yeah, I mean,
No,
that's
you can't.
the biggest cost of a 3D printed thing is the hardware that puts it together and makes it go.
Right.
And Dewan, I do have a question about that car your dog chewed up.
Yeah.
The parts in the bag. How long did you have to follow him to get those back?
Yeah, my dog is normally caught up behind a gate, and somehow he found his way out and just was running havoc throughout the house for hours without anybody knowing it. And so that's when he took advantage of it.
Scoop a slot car.
Yeah, another one bites the dust. That's what I called it.
There may be a few more parts coming yet.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Dewan.
Actually, before you go, this is for Geo. I found a picture of that car, Geo.
Nice.
That is nice.
Nice.
That's the Rusket, right?
Yeah. Now, since when I did this a couple of weeks ago, and I found a proper Lancer Rusket interior that's like sort of a bit more 3D-ish looking.
More bucket, yeah.
Yeah, and it's been replaced with that. But this is not an original Rusket body. It's a repop that I've had for 10 or 12 years that I think a company called Booth in the US was making these. So
Booth machine, yeah.
I believe Electric Dreams has that driver and head, I believe.
Well, that's the cock.
That's a Cox driver and a Cox head, yeah.
Was that Andre the Giant?
Yeah, well, certainly his head maybe, yeah. The Cox driver head was always a little bit big.
Yeah, but it was great looking though. It was.
Yeah,
big.
but I'm disappointed at you, Chris, that you put a number 4 on the car for Chris Amon, and then you didn't take the visor, you didn't take the peak off the helmet.
Well, I did that on the 32nd scale.
Dennis.
Hey,
Dennis and his memory.
Yeah,
he didn't even Google that. It was already up there in that head of his.
Oh yeah, of course, because I know that. I mean, I do that on every car I ever get that has supposed to have a McLaren in the cockpit. As I file off the peak on the helmet, because he never did use one. Except really, really early on in 59 and 60 when he was, but by the time he started using that silver bell, he never put a peak on it. He used to have some duct tape across the top of his goggles. That's all.
I don't believe him. I think he's taken 1/10 of a gram out of the top of the car and looking for the technical benefit.
All about the performance. Thank you, Chris, for showing that.
Yeah, beautiful. Dennis, you got your hand up. Are we switching to Club Corner yet?
No, I'm going to. I just wanted to show something. Oh, damn it! Hold on a moment. I'm trying to share a screen, and I'm not getting what I thought I could get here. So just let me close that down and check quickly. Because oh, that's why. Because I wanted to top Dewan and his dog. All right, so this car came to me as part of a 14-car collection from a guy down here in SoCal who wants to try and sell them. They're all 1/24 scale, mostly retro cars. But this particular one, his dog got at it. Wrong way. His dog got at it, and he didn't chew it much, but he decided to mark it in his own doggy fashion, and that's what it looked like, because the guy never bothered to clean the dog pee off the chassis.
Nice.
And so this is how it arrived at me, and now I've got to do something about it. And I have not decided yet what I'm going to do about it or whether I'm going to do anything about it. The unfortunate part is that this was built by John Gorski, so it's actually a car that in good condition would actually command quite a good price. But right now, So Duan, your dog, I think, has met its match right here.
Now you know you don't ever kiss a dog.
Yep.
Or at least clean off the car right away.
Yeah, can you imagine it? I don't know. I'm still shaking my head at it, but anyway. So I just thought I'd share that.
I mean, a lot of people don't realize that kind of thing can happen, especially, it happens pretty quickly too, really, within weeks, not
Oh,
years.
yeah.
And I didn't really want to know that it happened, but
That was fun. Thanks for that.
Here in New Zealand, you even need your dog to piss on your cars to start them rusting.
All right, Henry, let's get away from the dog piss. What you got?
Let's see if I can get
On the dog first.
Started about a year ago, and I never finished them. And I had the idea this year to finish all the things I think about and not start new projects. So today I made the orange one, and it has to be a total of 7 because I had the idea to run them at the club. So, and we are 6 lanes and 1 in reserve. And I finally got the right gears for it because I have to order them in Germany because I didn't find the right tools of the right gearings. But we're coming there now. Got 6 beautiful puppies.
Nice.
Talking about dogs.
Yeah.
And I did, for once, I bought something. And I'm very pleased with it because you hardly can find them. It's the Sierra Crossword from Ninko.
Oh.
And with the motor that you want, the 20,000s. And I don't think they'd run DTM because they have a different name for it in England, I think. But DW whatever.
That ran in the British Touring Car Championship.
Yes. That's a sort of DTM, isn't it?
Yeah. Basically the British.
From Sierra RS 500 when it ran in the BTCC.
Yeah. So I'm going to try an Oliver chassis and let's look how it runs in our DTM class.
Is it not very narrow, Henry? Because the Scalextric one, the equivalent one, is very, very narrow.
Narrow in terms of the width.
I assume so.
Wayne, it's a bit oversized compared to the Scalex one. A couple of the guys ran them in our Group A series down here at the Ninko and replaced the motors in them, and they got them going reasonably well. The biggest problem is it's got quite a step chassis under it.
Yeah, that's why I changed the chassis. It's 75. No. Yes, 58.
50.
No, sorry. 56.
Nope. Keep going.
56.
What is it, Henry? What is it?
56.
Okay, 56.
Yeah. We ran 55 millimeter down here. Guys didn't do much to them to get them to run.
No.
That's it.
All right. Thanks, Henry.
Henry, what chassis you got under it?
Yeah, what chassis did you
put? The Ninko. For the Ninko?
It's the same, the Sierra chassis.
Yeah,
the original one.
It's that the original Ninko chassis.
Yeah. Oh yeah, with step in it. Yes.
On Shapeways, you can see another ones from Alloy or something like that. I don't know, Spanish or Italian.
And are you gonna get that and put that under the car?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because this is an inline and we all drive our cars sidewinder. hopefully, yeah, I think it will fit. But let's see.
Yep.
But this is the new project, so and I'm not going to do new projects.
You're gonna finish that project
this year. First, finish my old project.
Well, I like I said earlier, I ordered some things as well. I put in a fairly sizable order with Electric Dreams, and I hope it's here by next week. But it might take a little extra time. Marco will need to make it ready for shipping. So I don't know how long that'll take. He said 5 days, but we'll see. But I'll hopefully show that off next week, if not the week after that.
I got one quick picture to redeem myself with Dennis.
Uh-oh. Ah, there we go. Yeah, no, that's the Strombecker one, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
I knew that. It has the shield off of it, the visor.
We're supposed to.
Yeah. Now, that is how to build a 1/32 scale slot car. That thing is just gorgeous. Can you believe that that's basically a dead stock Strombecker body?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I did a thread on this thing, and it like the way that they came in the sets and you got them and stuff compared to what you can make them into, or it's a complete transformation.
It's that got me onto buying a whole bunch of Strombecker bodies on eBay to do the same thing that I've never gotten around to yet.
Yeah.
So you made me spend money.
Well, there you go.
It's missing one thing, Chris. You haven't got
Sorry?
that little black kiwi on the side of his helmet, mate.
The where?
The little black kiwi?
Black kiwi. Should be on
Chris
the side
Amon
of the
had
helmet.
one. I don't know that. Did McLaren have one too? I know Amon
He did
had
at one stage. Yeah. I've only seen a couple of photos of it though, Dennis. I don't know whether it was there all the time.
If you
can find a photo.
I have the real photo, and I basically in the thread I put Bruce's 1-to-1 McLaren and then this below it. All the decals on the side of this was from Mosport in 65, and it is absolutely dead accurate.
Yeah.
I put a
65 or
diaplane.
66.
Yeah, there's a diaplane on the front and had a little green sticker in the middle of the diaplane. I put that on.
66, I think, not 65.
Yeah, 66, sorry.
66, yeah.
No.
Beautiful.
No. Anyway, this one is without the peak, so there you go.
Trying to catch Chris out. You're gonna have to try harder than that.
Beautiful. Well, no, it was 66, but it's fine.
Yeah. Oh, John Weber has a picture. Is that a book?
Yes.
We got a picture of that car in it?
Probably. It was just on the cover, and I thought.
Oh,
this is
are you helping Marco at all with those cars? Or is he doing all of it?
I remember Bruce turned up at one race meeting with a wing on the top of his helmet at one stage as well.
You're still muted, Dennis. You're muted, Dennis.
Hey, Chris, if you can come back and tell us about this race at Electric Dreams, I don't think we know what you're talking about.
There will be a race November 11th at Electric Dreams. It will be sponsored by Mazzetti Racing, MR Slot Car. It looks at this stage there will be 2 races. There will be an individual single driver race, which will be GT cars. So you'll have the option, the McLaren, the Porsche, the Jag. And then there will be hopefully a team race, which will be the Ferrari 330 SPs. Rules are close to being finalized. Basically, it will be handout motors and handout wheels and tire sets. The tires will all be glued and trued already. And stand by, don't start building anything yet, and don't hold me to anything that I've said, because rules are yet to be finalized.
Gotcha. Well, thank you, Chris. Appreciate that.
Yeah, and that's November, so we got plenty of time there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, plenty of time.
Yeah, Ernie's gonna have to do a little bit of negotiation, I guess, with Marco, and we're hoping that we can count on Dennis to help us out with that as well.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, he'll just sit back and watch us.
Yeah, like I always do. Right.
Yeah.
Just mooch off of everybody else and just.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Well,
and
one thing that will not, it will not be an MR slot car / Thunder Slot / NSR / Slot race. It will be a MR slot car.
So yeah, one maker.
Yay.
Yeah.
Like the Scale Auto one that's coming up in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Right. Cool.
Which I could talk about in Club Corner, I guess.
All right, let's do Club Corner. Go ahead and put your hand up for Club Corner. Mike, are you ready for Club Corner, or was it something else?
Actually, it was something else. First off, eat your heart out, Dewan. That's an absolutely gorgeous car. Runs like crap, but it's still a beautiful car. And the other thing I meant
Juan's
to do this.
dog is salivating right now.
Yeah, really. Oh yes. Now recently I got the MR slot car, a 333, and I noticed something different about it right off the bat. And then if you look at the guide, if you notice, it's quite long.
It's a wood guide, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's the original guide that was in it. It works in my.
That's the guide that came with it.
Yeah. Anyway, it's much longer than most other guides. You know, per the discussion that we had about the long slotting plus guides and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also much longer at the rear than it is at the front, which is pertinent to the discussion that Wayne had about getting into the slot and actually having the car turn a little early. So anyway, I was wanted to ask Chris about that, and if that was malice aforethought, which I assume it was, or they just changed it.
No, that's the way the car come. That's the way the car came with it.
But it's new with this car, not with any of the others.
Right. Yeah, no, it's sort of, you know, for some strange reason, guys, right. For some strange reason, guys want to put long guides and stuff in the car, and so fine, give them a longer guide. And if they want to chop it down in length, which is, you know, makes no difference, let them chop it down.
So Mazzetti Racing have 2 guides, right? They have a regular guide and a wood guide. I don't recall both numbers. The one is a 2022 and the other one, the regular guide's 2021. I remember Ernie telling me when the Jaguars came out, the XK220s, that he made a mistake on the parts list and specified the 2022, the wood guide for those cars. And everybody was so happy about that, I guess, that he's just carried on with that on the Ferraris.
Yeah.
Well,
and what do you think of the car, Mike?
Crap. I don't have
What do
any
you think
problems
of
with
the
it
car?
bottoming out.
What do you think of the car, Mike?
I love it. It's a solid, on my track, it's a solid 8-second cars. The best cars I've got are running 7.4, 7.5. But this one runs very nicely and ease of handling. I have not put suspension in it yet, as I have in my McLaren. But neither one of them are absolute, great performers as far as, lap times, but they're really easy to drive and really nice cars, nice and smooth.
There's a bunch of little things you can do. Right now, you're going to have a hideous time getting any body movement on that car.
Yeah.
And if I can show you what to do,
please.
we're going to make some changes in ones that are coming up. I was just talking to Ernie about this the other day. Is that up?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a plate that holds the exhaust pipes that slides down between the body post and the rear valence here, Mike.
Yep.
And depending on, and that's a separate piece that is hot welded onto the main chassis plate. Depending on how it goes in, there's not enough room between the back side of the valence and the back, or the front side of the valence and the back side of the post, or however you want to talk about it. You need to file some little flats in the body post.
Okay.
And then when you take the body off, opposite the body post on the inside of the valence, you'll see a little raised molding strip. So if you can take an X-Acto and slide it down the inside of the valence and get rid of that molding strip, I'll see if I have a picture of that. I don't. One more quick one. Sorry, guys. Yeah, this is the black plastic piece here.
Yep.
So you can see where I've sort of sanded on the body post just a little bit here to get the valence. This piece was also a little high and didn't allow any body movement here. So I just took a Dremel and I just sliced off a 1/16 of an inch of, you can see where the white plastic's exposed here. I just sliced that off all the way along, let the rear of the body sit down a little bit more.
Okay.
And now you can get some movement in the body. That's on future releases, that's going to be a little change that's going to happen to the car. Anyway, so they're good cars out of the box, but there's lots of little niggling things that can be fixed.
Yeah, I can't, the body movement on the front is inhibited by the screws, so I've got to take care of that a little bit. And of course, this one is chipped, so it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
I hogged out the hole on the inside if you look at it for the chip.
Yep.
So, but the front hangs up on the screws a little bit, so I'm going to have to flatten the screws out at the top to get it going.
Yeah, or you can, just put the screws in an electric drill with the head sticking out.
Right.
And then just take them down a little bit with a Dremel and a cutoff disc.
Yep.
And if you want a little more performance, you can take the motor, switch the motor around so the open sides at the bottom, you'll get a little, you're a magnet guy, you'll get a little more magnetic leak by turning the motor upside down or right side up.
Yeah. Okay.
He's a plastic guy, not a magnet guy.
He's not magnets much anymore. I guess the real question is it a cheater motor? I mean, how many grams are you going to pull just turning the motor around?
No, it's all of Ernie's cars now. That is the yellow wrapper flat six from all the motors are bought from in conjunction with Slotted. So it is not a heavy downforce motor, but you'll certainly pick up 3 or 4 grams by putting the open side of the can down, if that's what you choose to do.
In fact, for the race in November, I seem to remember in the rules it says that you're not allowed to do that.
Yeah, well, on all of our club racing on our Polo car track where we race a couple of MR slot car classes, the closed side of the can has to be down. So.
All right, Mike, do you want to transition to the corner or?
Just a quick one.
Go ahead, Gio.
So I have to go up past 9. So basically 6 minutes. So I was planning to do.
Go ahead.
A club corner, but I mean, I don't think there will be time. So basically, I will disappear.
You're not. You don't want to. You don't have. You can't do one in 6 minutes.
I want to basically try to do a Wayne here, but. Sorry, Wayne.
Okay, I guess we'll save that for next week then.
I'm gonna shut up.
Okay. All right.
So just to be sure, this is what's what's come out.
Oh wow!
Oh wow!
That's bigger than my pile.
Yeah, it's
You should
bigger
be
than
able
my
to make a
pile.
car that handles real well with all those.
To be able to make a car with all those.
Yeah, really. And by the way, with the can down, you have 4 grams of downforce on my Magna Marshall.
Yeah.
Four. Okay.
Yeah, true the tires down and you'll go up to 6 or 7 and then flip it around and you'll be at about 11 or 12.
Yep. So
all right, let's get some Club Corner out of the way. Mike, did you have some Club Corner?
Well, we had a disastrous Club Corner this week.
So that's a yes.
We ran the first time we ran the 50s F1s, and we had all kinds of problems. I changed my philosophy from the voltage to turn the voltage down instead of using the magless 50s on the race management. And for some reason the cars kept losing it and disconnecting it. Now, I don't know whether it's my power base that's causing a problem or whether it's just the lack of voltage. This particular power base has always been sensitive to shorts of any kind. So, but we had like 20 to 30 times that it happened in it. And it was just, it was, normally it takes us 20 to 25 minutes to run a race. It took us like 40 minutes to run this race because of all the problems, and who knows what happened. But it was interesting. Those cars are very, very difficult to drive. The D50, the Lancia D50, which is the third car that we had, is the one that won because it's a rear motored car rather than a front motored car. So I'm trying to equalize that a little bit. I don't have the cash right now to buy more car tricks that are rear motors, which I would prefer. So the lap times were pretty similar, but the D50 was much easier to drive, and that made a big difference. The biggest issue is, of course, the high center of gravity on these. And if it would have been real, the drivers would have lost their heads a number of times because it's a matter of flip over. And I made a big mistake before the start of the race, and in between qualifying, I decided to try the acetone trick. Big mistake. Too much grip, and it flipped over all the time, levered out of the slot because it had so much grip on the urethane tires. So I don't know if Chris or anybody knows where we can find these the tires in these skinny tires for these things in rubber, to see if we could do something with that instead of urethane.
Try to look for Mitos tires, the Spanish brand that does raid trucks. Raid the tire stuff. See whether you can find something that will fit.
Yeah.
And with this one, I will leave you guys. See you next week.
See you, Gio.
Thanks, Gio.
Oh, there's a
maybe just a regular replacement tire from Scalextric, right?
Yeah, well, that would mean I'd have to find them, but I'll see if I can get the hold of them and see what happens. Yeah, the urethane ones are okay, but we'll see.
Alrighty, well, better luck next time.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, turn the voltage back up. Figure out, get a spare base. You never know.
But turn the voltage back up on the power supply and then turn down the speed on the control unit, right?
Yeah, that's what he had been doing.
Yeah.
He decided to try voltage down, and it didn't agree with his power base, apparently.
Yeah.
All right, Dennis, what you got?
Oh, I was just going to talk about the race that's coming up at Electric Dreams on the 11th and 12th, which is not this Saturday now, but the one after. And this is another or one of the one make events that we're going to have this year. And this one is called the Scale Auto Spectacular or the Scale Auto Festival or something like that. And the Saturday race is individual racing for Scale Auto GT3 cars. So Scale Auto have a lot of GT3s. They have a Mercedes, they have a Porsche, they have a Corvette, they have a Spiker, they have GT2s and GT3s. They have a whole bunch all the way up to the latest Acura or NSX GT3. And so the racing on the Saturday is individual heats for those. And then on the Sunday, there will be a two-man teams in an enduro for the same cars. But part of the attraction of the whole weekend is that the two brothers who own Scale Auto will both be there coming in from Spain. And they are going, oh, there we go. And they're going to be doing a little bit of a demonstration, particularly of the Scale Auto 124 scale cars. And I was going to share my screen, but there's somebody in the way.
Oh, go ahead. Okay.
The Scale Auto 124 scale cars, particularly are things like this. All right, this is their Audi LMS, and the chassis that are underneath that are like these, right? So it's the European nuts and bolts style car with not a lot of motor, like a 25k motor, but actually these ones run really, really nicely on our track, on the Electric Dreams track. So that's basically what's coming up. So in a couple of weeks, I'll be able to report back on that and let you know how it went.
And that's I mean, I have one of their first releases of that car. So the chassis is a little bit different, but assuming the motor is similar, it's a good torquey motor for a.
Yeah, they don't go too badly. I've got a couple of others I've got a Viper and a BMW Z4 in the same range, and it's a much simpler chassis. The early ones doesn't have all the carbon fiber bits. A deal cheaper too, as I recall. This one was a white kit, so I had to do all the pink paint, and then add all these something like 70 different decals on the car, which took a little bit of time, but I think it came out pretty well.
Is that a rubber uprights for the fin?
No, they're just regular, but I think there is a rubber version, but I've just got the regular plastic ones.
Really good. Really good.
Yeah, that looks fantastic, Dennis.
Thank you.
Yeah, looking forward to hearing.
Yeah, so that should be a fun event. You know, the two-man enduro on the Sunday will always be a fun event. Enduros are always a lot of fun, and usually we'll run like 20 minutes a lane or 10 minutes a lane and split it between the two drivers each time. And depending on how many teams there are, we may run like semifinals, and then the top 6 guys go into a final for a slightly longer run.
Ironically, I'm actually going to be in town that weekend for a convention, for a Transformer collector convention that's happening that weekend with my son. I might see how far away, because we have various other excursions as well. But I might have to see if I can swing by for a minute or two and say hi.
That'd be fun. Meet up in person.
Don't count on it, but
yeah, that's
I'm gonna check and see.
No, we're gonna hold you to it now, Greg.
Yeah.
I see Frank has company today.
Oh yeah, who's you got there, Frank?
In the background of Frank's photograph is Mr. Tim Fleener, who is a good racer. Hey, Tim.
Hi, Dennis. Oh, yeah,
there you go. Guys, say hello to Tim.
Hey, Tim.
He's a racer that's joined all the activities at Electric Dreams and at Far Out, and has come up very quickly.
Thank you, Dennis.
All right, good deal. Well, more Club Corner, or the floor is open. We got 25 minutes to waste. Too bad Gio left.
Oh.
What do you want to talk about, Henry?
Henry's showing controllers.
Yeah. I might know what he wants to talk about, but go ahead.
Also, I spoke today to Tamar. We're talking about a race in Best. And I said, we're driving there around 70-75% of our power. And we didn't know what it was. And Mauricio was this weekend also in Best. And they found out in the 4.0 they had a problem. If you have an SP3 and you have an amplifier and you drive on linear mode, you get 80% of the power.
Interesting.
And then we drove 6 hours with 80% of our power. Great.
I mean, you know, sometimes a little less power doesn't hurt that much.
not on the straight.
I was gonna say, unless you got a really long straight. Yeah.
I had a Revo slot experience match this weekend. It was terrible, but that doesn't matter. But I tested 3 cars over here on my Carrera track. The Viper, a Porsche, and the LMP, the red one. And on our club, I'm gonna win with the LMP from the club, second or first, third place, something about that. But that's on the wooden track. And the LMP on my own Carrera track wasn't great. And I went to the track where there was the match, and it's also a 32 long Carrera track. So I thought I have an advantage on that one. But 7 people tried the LMP, and none of them did it over there. I tried my Porsche, it wasn't great. And then I tried my Viper, who was on my own Carrera track, the baddest one of all. And it was the greatest car on that track. So if you think you can prepare on something, now you can't. Because I thought Carrera is Carrera, but it seems not to be. You know, you have got temperature, humidity, etc., etc. But it was a big surprise for me that the car that was at least, or not the best car on my track, was the best car on that track. So at the end of the day, I thought, you never know. Yep. You have to be there, you have to train there, and you have to know what you're driving on, because not every Carrera track is a Carrera track. Seems to be.
I mean, the only, you can do the setup as far as, you know, normal race prep.
Yeah.
But yeah, as you know, if you're having multiple cars, different ones might do better on the other track. Yeah.
Yeah, but that is also is the same track as Carrera, and
Yeah,
then
but-
you think you narrow it.
Yeah.
But it was a different kind of track.
Could have been the layout, you know, a lot
Of course,
car
it was
handles.
late because the LMP did nothing because it was too wide or too long. I don't know what it did, but it couldn't handle the turns over there. And the Viper did great. It was a more technical track. And speaking about oxygen, I asked you a question this afternoon. Maybe I'm reading an old document of oxygen.
No,
So-
I recently checked that document and it still says the same thing.
Yeah, but it is not correct anymore.
I have asked, so basically, so to fill everybody in, basically,
Sorry, yeah.
the question was, you know, what is up with oxygen racing on Carrera Digital track with the whole, you know, 1 through 6 on Carrera Digital versus 7 through 20 and yada yada. And the original documentation was that when you run oxygen cars on a Carrera Digital track, oxygen IDs, not we're talking about oxygen firmware. 1 through 6 would use the same information as far as car ID as Carrera 1 through 6.
Yep.
And so you'd need controllers plugged into all 6 controllers with their buttons held down, or a special plug that does the same thing. And then you could count using the Carrera lap counter would count cars 1 through 6, and lane changing 1 through 6 would be fine with your oxygen controller and oxygen shipped car.
Yeah.
Cars number 7 through 20 of oxygen would still work on that track, but they would not count laps because Carrera, digital control unit can't count more than 6 cars, or at least, they didn't do the ghost car counting. They just
No, correct.
And then for lane changing, all of the 7 through 20 Oxygen ID cars would use Carrera ID number 4. So if you were getting lap counts from the 7 through 20, you'd basically be getting multiple lap counts for ID 4 for all those cars crossing the control unit. That's the way that it's written in the manual, and I believe that's the way that the Type A and Type B and B2 and whatnot chips before the whole app and firmware via the phone thing, basically, upgrades and all that. Probably still works that way. But the last time I tested and checked and talked to other people about that functionality with the Type C chip and the most recent firmware, it appears that Oxygen IDs 1 through 20 all do the same ID. They all do ID number 4.
Correct, because I normally drive 1 to 6, something like that.
Yeah, so you've got no ability to count IDs 1 through 6 using just the Carrera control unit. You now have to have the magnets under the track and use a dongle and the Oxygen software on your computer. But I have not talked with Maurizio or Christian or anybody about that specifically to find out if that's intentional or a bug. So
I had some remarks here in Holland to people who want to drive also the same as I do. But yeah, I never used 20 IDs.
Yeah.
And he has a big slot car club, and he has an entry for 24 people. I'm saying I don't know if that's gonna work.
You do 12 teams of 2.
Yeah, then you have no problem. But you think at this moment you think it's gonna work for 1 until 20?
You definitely can make it work through 1 through 20 pure Oxygen.
Yeah.
Right, and then it'll still change lanes on Carrera standard track when you do the ID 4 with the button held down.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
That's the way I drive. Yeah.
But for lap counting, it's got to be Oxygen, 1 through 20. 1 through 6. 1 through 6 will no longer count correctly on the Carrera control unit.
Yeah, I never use that. I drive only pure Oxygen.
Yeah. So if it's basically just pure Oxygen lap counting, so you got the dongle and you got chrono or whatever
lap timer,
then you're good to go. Don't even worry about it.
Okay, thank you very much. Talking about Oxygen, I've seen a match in Spain.
Yep.
Oh, that was a serious track also.
Yes.
And I did like it. So I was a little bit enthusiastic and talked about some people over here. I asked my wife, do you want to see Barcelona? Yes, she did. So guess where the holiday is going to. We're going to drive the Oxygen match in Spain.
Yeah, and she's gonna sightsee in Barcelona while you're driving.
Maybe it is. I found one people who his wife had a seminar in Barcelona in that week. So how many thoughts, how many luck you can have? So right. he's gonna pull in. So I'm gonna find the third person. Otherwise, I take someone from Spain. It doesn't matter for me. It's all about the fun.
That's like, this is what people mean when they say the stars aligned.
Yeah, sure.
You get to do a slot car trip, and your wife gets to do a Barcelona trip, and you get to see old friends again that you haven't seen for years.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, you live around. Spain is very big. He lives around the corner. How big are the odds? Yes.
Right.
So,
very cool.
So enjoying that.
Yeah, take lots of pictures and video.
Yeah, I have to build an AMG Mercedes also.
Car. All right, thanks, Henry. Let's see if we can get Jerry in for the last few minutes. What you got, Jerry?
Okay, so my club up here in Northern California, we have a question for everybody. We've been looking for Scalextric Trans Am scaly tires. Our Trans Ams have a lot of miles on them, a lot, and they're starting to definitely wear down. And we've been looking for a comparable tire. We run strictly rubber, and obviously we use NSR super grip tires on all our cars except the Trans Ams because we want the scaly tires, but we can't find them. We've looked, we even went as far as a Pendle Slot to look at their tires that's comparable to the scaly tire. But even then, they're a lot grippier than the scaly tires because the scaly tire forces us to drive the car. And that's what we want, is the original scaly tire. So I don't know if anybody knows where to get straight scaly tires.
What tires from Pendle? What kind of material was it?
So one of the other members from the club got them, so I didn't get them. I don't have all the information from them. But they do seem to lower the lap times, and they're starting to get more grippy as we go. Because it would have been, you know, if you're running rubber, I'd just still throw NSR tires in, because I think the 5206s or 08s are comparable, but they're just really grippy. And the scaly tires, if you go into the shooting into the corner and you don't, you know, brake or slow down, scaly tires are going to flip and turn. So we're forced to actually drive the Trans Am car. So I don't know if anybody knows, maybe a place in the UK that would have, you know, scaly tires for Trans Am cars there, or maybe I have to make an email. Yeah.
What track are you on?
We're on wood, braided wood.
Using standard wheels, scaly wheels.
Yeah, I was just hoping maybe we didn't have to swap or move wheels. I mean, yeah, I guess we just
ideally you don't want to replace wheels. You want to just be able to pop the old tire off and put a new tire on.
Yeah, because we glue and true, you know, and then we true those tires. But I mean, our Trans Am class is, I mean, it's got thousands and thousands of miles. I mean, those cars just run. So I mean, it's definitely time to replace these tires on some of these cars.
I mean, I would ask Dennis. I would be like, does Electric Dreams have stock of OEM electric Trans Am tires?
Yeah. So we went to the website. I mean, we've gone to all the websites and looked, but it's just it's tough.
Maybe Pioneer.
So the answer to that is no, we don't. We have tires for the Challenger, but not any of the other. And I think maybe the Challengers have a slightly different tire size to the others, but
what about
Camaros and the Mustangs. Oh, in the axle assemblies, I'll have a look there. I didn't look there, but yeah, you don't always want to have to buy a whole axle assembly just because you can't get the tire.
I mean, the Trans Am category is also a class at the club that I was frequenting on the wood track, and we found exactly the same, that if you uprate the tires on them, they fall over, especially if you're leaving everything a lot about them in stock form. We've got the same problem. We've got cars that are running out of tires and can't get replacements. The only thing you can do about it is replace the car.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I mean, all of our Trans Am cars are, you know, they're all tuned and ready to go. And it's just once we added the new rubber tire, it's just the grip level completely changes. And I mean, yeah, they sit on track, but with the scaly tire, you're forced to drive this Trans Am car, and it's a little more lifelike, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean,
I'm guessing those tires were probably urethane. I mean, that's my best.
There's lots of urethane tires for that for those wheels. You probably find grip wise they will be somewhere in between, well, closer to the rubber, but certainly better than the scaly tires. And if Pendle doesn't have replacement scaly tires, no one does.
Yeah.
Well, the one thing that you could probably do would be to get onto Home Racing World or some of the forums and just ask people who have taken tires off of their Trans Am cars to put silicons or urethanes on them if they've still got the originals.
Yeah.
I mean, I could probably look through what I've got here and find 5 or 6 pairs straight out, maybe even a few more.
Okay. Well, I mean, next time I send in a Electric Dreams order, I'll reach out to you, and then we can.
Okay.
But yeah, hop on Home Racing World and SlotCar Illustrated and say, hey
guys, yeah, See who,
Yeah.
see who, you know,
Who's
who
got
can
'em.
help.
Okay. I want to just throw that out there to you guys. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Wonder what Pioneer uses.
Pioneer tires are probably easier to find.
The
Yeah.
Pioneer tires, are, but the Pioneer tires have a lot more grip than the Scalex tires anyway.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which may defeat the purpose.
Yeah, no, those Trans Am class with the stock scaly tire, you know, it forces you to drive that car. I mean, you can't go into the corner and just, you know, it's a different experience. You know, like I said, we have, you know, we run super grip NSR super grip tires in all of our other classes. So, but I mean, on the Trans Am class, that's the class where we, you know, keep our wits to ourselves without flipping the car over, especially the Javelin. And we've gotten the Javelins pretty good. So a lot of people don't like the Javelins because it was a completely design on the chassis, but we've got them to run pretty good. Obviously, it's almost a Camaro class because everybody likes a Camaro because it's low and wide. But me personally, I run a Mustang. I'm a Ford guy myself. So, I mean, I just stick with Mustangs and Javelins. So, but it just keeps it a little bit more open on the scenery when you're driving these cars. So I appreciate it. I appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
What did you do to the Javelin? Because mine is just a dog.
Okay, so I'll have to bring it next time. Okay, so the Javelin and the Cougar are the only two that you can lower the front. Okay, only lower the front, and there is a lowering distance to the front. Because if you lower them too much, then obviously it's just not, you know. So we've lowered the front, and we have trued the rears, stock scaly tires, and with the weight underneath the axle and a little bit in the front by the keel. And they've gotten pretty good. And that's both on the Javelin and on the Cougar.
So
and
by lowering the front, you're talking about raising the axle so that the whole guide and chassis
so
go
so we'll cut the front tires down, so they're cut down, and then we'll grab the body where the body screws are, or on the body side, we'll just file it down a little bit, and it'll lower the body down to the chassis a little bit more. And with that, with the weight, we'll do a little bit more weight on the Javelin and on the Cougar, and they're really competitive there. So the guys have really gotten into running those two cars that a lot of people don't run. So, and I've done the same thing with my Mustangs. It's all I run is usually Mustangs. So the Mustangs you cannot lower, but definitely the tire and the weight. So it brought them, all those cars, back together. Because I need the Javelin. Nobody liked the Javelin because of the design of it. And it's understandable. I mean, Scaly went with the inline at that point, but they should have kept the Javelin the same. But I get it. Things change. But we've gotten them pretty competitive, and we run them.
Awesome, thank you. That sounds worth trying. Because I have a Javelin that's yellow and blue, and I want to be able to race it.
Oh, it's a beautiful car. Yeah, no, it's a beautiful car.
Yeah,
so I mean, it's just. And you can get really good body float on it too. So, but it does take more time than obviously a Camaro.
Yep.
Camaro usually just stick it on the track and it goes, But yeah, I mean, just add a little more time to it and it'll be fun.
Thank you very much.
If and when I get a chance, I'll make a video and post it on YouTube. But I'll let you know.
Cool. Yeah. All right. We got 5 minutes left. Anybody else got anything they want to ask about?
Have any of y'all seen this tire truer? I don't know who makes it. But it fits. It has one side that fits. Your car sits on it, has a sandpaper or something in the back, some kind of adhesive or abrasive in the back. But it has a plug that goes over into your track.
Oh yeah.
And then you do it with your. Have any of y'all seen that? Is it any good? Is it?
Would you like to save some money? Put a piece of sandpaper on your track.
Right. What?
Put a piece of sandpaper on your track.
Oh, true. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
If you want to save a lot of money, just get a piece of sandpaper or get a couple of nail files and just file them down.
Yeah.
It's not a truer. It's a sander.
Got it.
You're making a smoother egg, but you're not turning an egg into a circle.
Okay.
That's basically. I mean, it's kind of nice in that you're not doing it on your track, and so you're not getting rubber dust on your track.
It's really more of a cleaner than anything.
It would be, I would.
Or scuffer.
Scuffer, yeah.
Scuffer, sander, cleaner, whatever, yeah. And then there's another one probably by the same guy that like is specifically for cleaning and like has a lint roller in the back that the tires then
or a little wet pad I've seen them too. Sponge.
Same basic kind of device, but in no way worth the money that you are paying for those things. IMHO, YMMV.
I do a little circle back and the quick screen share.
Yep, hit it.
That was the motor that I purchased, and it says it's 20,000 RPM at 12 volts.
540. Oh yeah, you want a 550, right, Dennis?
Oh, that's what I think personally. The 550 is better. I remember buying 550. I bought two off of Amazon. They're like about $13 a piece, and they work very, very well for me.
And that was the power supply.
Wayne, try it.
That's the power supply unit that I'm using, and if I'm not mistaken, that's the same one that's being supplied with the
H&B test bench.
No, the one that.
The MSR. Yeah, the MSR comes with something like that.
Or the Polycar racetrack race sets have got a very similar one.
I thought they had a switch on a wall wart. Yeah,
I've seen some people that reviewed some of these things, and they said that the readout is not terribly accurate compared to the knob position.
I've got two of those, and I've had a digital voltmeter on the end of the output, and it matches identically with the reading on the display. If I had a complaint at all, it would be that the rotary knob goes a lot further. It peaks at 12.3 volts, but you can turn the knob a lot further than that. And it's like, it only starts at 4. You turn it on and it comes on at like 3.9 volts.
It needs a Greg knob.
I get to 12.3, but way before I'm at the end of the rotary knob. So it feels like I'm slightly out of the range.
But does the knob go up to 11? Mine goes up to 12.
Greg's one goes to 12. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the same kind of power supply that Henry includes with the H&B test bench, and it's exactly the same. It doesn't turn when you click it. Click to the power on. It's 3+ volts, and then it hits 12.3-ish long before the knob hits the end stop, and then it's 12.3.
Means that
it's still a great little power supply. I mean, at 5 amps and that size, it's a great little power supply for the job if you can do the job with 4 volts and above.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people use those per lane on analog tracks because then they can adjust it, and have their long lane be slower or whatever they want to adjust it for, or for kids or whatever. Yeah. So, but I don't think it's really up for truing. You want something with lower voltage and more amps.
Oh yeah.
Again, that depends on the motor in the truer, right? I mean,
yeah, but that's that power supply. That's not going to be a regulated or switched.
No, agreed. But 4 volts on a hoodie, or 4 volts on an area 3, or 4 volts on a tire raiser are all going to give you different results.
Yeah,
and some 4 volts is fine. It depends on what you're truing too.
Yeah, I would do urethane at 12 volts.
I don't think
you could do urethane at 4 volts. For example, when I'm doing the Revo slot tires, or to an extent nowadays the G series tires, the G25s or the AS20s, I turn the voltage up because I want that quick cut. The quick cut and release technique that I've been using seems to work better with a higher speed on the drum. But if you're doing super grips or N22s or some other rubber that doesn't gum as badly, then turn the voltage down. And then to run 3 or 3.2 is nice. Or if you're just polishing the tire, to run it at 2 volts, where it's nice and slow, or putting oil on it, things like that. Yeah, it's better, but I mean, you can get away with the 4 volt supply.
All right, I think we'll end the recording on that note. And as always, come and join a live chat because it's a lot of fun. Until next week, bye.
Bye.